Somewhere in your mind, there is a picture of the solar system, and that picture is a lie. You have seen it 1,000 times. 8 neat planets strung close together like beads on a short wire, the sun glowing just off to one side. It is comforting. It is also wrong by a margin so enormous it can barely be spoken. The truth is that our solar system is almost entirely empty, and the distances between its worlds are so vast that they break the human imagination. Tonight, we are going to cross that emptiness slowly and gently. Before we drift out, leave a like and subscribe so this calm corner of space can find you again. And quietly, tell me, where are you listening from and what time is it there? Let yourself sink a little deeper before we begin. There is no rush tonight, no destination you have to reach, nothing you need to solve. We are simply going to wander out into the solar system together, slowly, the way you might walk through an empty house at midnight, room by quiet room. And the first room we have to walk through is the one inside your own head, the picture of space you have carried since you were small. Close your eyes for a moment and call it up. You know the one. The sun sits fat and golden in the corner. The planets curve around it in tidy arcs, each one a comfortable hop from the next, all of them gathered close like children around a fire. Maybe there are little painted rings on Saturn. Maybe the whole thing is a mobile, turning gently above a crib, the worlds bumping softly into one another whenever the air moves. It is a warm image. It is the image on the classroom poster, on the lunchbox, on the cover of the book you read under the covers with a flashlight. And every single version of it is a lie, not a cruel lie, a necessary one, because the truth could never fit on a poster or a lunchbox or a page or a wall or a building or a city. The truth about how far the planets sit from one another is so large that no honest drawing of it has ever been made, because an honest drawing would be almost entirely empty, and the planets would be too small to see, and you would have to walk for a very long time just to get from one dot to the next. Every picture you have ever seen cheated. It had to. It squeezed the worlds together and swelled them up so they would be visible side by side, and in doing so it told you a gentle untruth that you have believed your whole life. So let us undo it. Slowly, gently. There is no hurry. Imagine we shrink the entire solar system down until the sun, that vast roaring furnace that holds everything else in its grip, becomes something you could set on a table in front of you. Let us make the sun the size of a large grapefruit, the kind that sits heavy and round in your palm, a single piece of fruit glowing softly on the table in a dark room. That is our sun now. Hold that picture. Feel how small and manageable it has become. Something you could cup in 2 hands. Now, where is the Earth? Most people, when they imagine this, reach out and place the Earth just there, a few inches from the grapefruit, a little crumb orbiting close to the warmth. That is the poster talking. That is the lie, still whispering. Because in this model, with the sun shrunk to a grapefruit on your table, the Earth is not a few inches away. The Earth is a grain of sand. A single tiny grain, smaller than you would like it to be, almost nothing at all. And that grain of sand is not on the table with the grapefruit. It is across the room. It is roughly 15 meters away, near the far wall, sitting in the dark by itself, a speck you would lose the moment you looked away. Sit with that for a second. The sun on the table, The Earth a grain of sand against the opposite wall, 15 meters of empty air between them. And everything in that 15 meters, all that space your eyes have to cross to find the little grain, all of it is nothing. Empty. Dark. That is already more emptiness than the poster ever admitted. And we have barely started. We have not even left the inner solar system. We have not reached the part that is genuinely difficult to hold in the mind. Let us walk inward first, before we walk out, just to get our footing. Let us start at the grapefruit and move outward one world at a time, and feel each gap as it opens. The closest planet to the Sun is Mercury. Small, grey, scorched on one side and frozen on the other. A little world with no real air to soften anything. In our tabletop model, Mercury is a pinhead, a fleck so small you would need to lean in close to see it at all. And it sits about 6 meters from the grapefruit, 6 meters of darkness, and then a pinhead. Already, the closest planet to the Sun, the one we think of as huddled right up against the fire, is 6 meters away in a model where the Sun is a piece of fruit. If you stood at the table and wanted to visit Mercury, you would have to cross a room to reach it, and when you arrived, there would be almost nothing there to find, just a metal speck hanging in the cold. Keep going. Past Mercury, a little farther out, comes Venus. Venus is closer to Earth in size, a world wrapped in thick, suffocating cloud, the brightest point of light you have ever seen in the evening sky. In our model, Venus is a small ball, perhaps the size of a peppercorn, and it floats around 11 meters from the sundae, so now picture the room again. The grapefruit on the table, a pinhead 6 meters out, a peppercorn 11 meters out, and still nothing between them but air and shadow. The planets are not gathered close. They are scattered thin across the dark, each one alone, each one separated from its neighbor by distances that dwarf the things themselves. And then, at about 15 meters, we arrive back at our grain of sand. The Earth, home, everything you have ever known, every person who has ever lived, every war and every love song and every quiet, ordinary afternoon, all of it on a grain of sand 15 meters from a grapefruit, with a pinhead and a peppercorn somewhere in the darkness between. That is the real arrangement. That is the thing the poster could not show you. I want you to notice something about how that feels. It would be easy for this to feel cold or frightening, this sudden enormous emptiness where you expected a cozy little system of worlds. But stay with it a moment longer and something else starts to come through. There is a kind of peace in it. The universe is not crowded and jostling and loud. It is mostly stillness. It is mostly soft, dark distance, patient and unhurried, with the occasional small, precious thing floating in it. You are one of those small, precious things. The quiet out there is not against you. It is simply the way space is, and tonight you get to drift through it without having to cross any of it yourself. Let us go back to the table, because there is more to feel even here in the warm inner rooms before the real distances open up. Think about the light. The grapefruit on your table, if it were truly the sun, would be pouring out light in every direction. That light moves faster than anything in the universe, so fast that in everyday life we treat it as instant. Flip a switch and the room is lit before you can even register the motion of your hand. And yet, the light leaving the real sun, the actual sun 93 million miles away, takes more than 8 minutes to reach the Earth. 8 minutes. The sunlight warming your skin on a summer afternoon left the surface of the sun 8 minutes ago, crossed all that emptiness at the fastest speed reality allows, and only just arrived. If the sun were to vanish, you would not know for over 8 minutes. You would sit in the last of its old light, unaware, while the darkness rushed toward you across that gulf. That is the inner solar system. That is the close, cozy, familiar part. 8 minutes of the fastest thing there is, just to get from the fire to the grain of sand. And we are going to go so much farther than this tonight. We are going to drift out past Mars, out across a gap so wide it will make these first rooms feel like nothing, out to the giant worlds, and then past them into the true outer dark, where the sun itself becomes just another star. But we will do it slowly, we will do it gently. There is time. There is always time out here, more time than you can imagine, oceans of it, and tonight you can let it carry you. Breathe in slowly. Feel the weight of your body settling into the bed, into the mattress, into the soft known surface beneath you. You are not a grain of sand alone in the dark. You are warm. You are held. You are exactly where you need to be. And from this safe, still place, we are only going to look outward, only going to wonder, only going to let the size of things wash over us like a tide that asks nothing of us at all. Let me tell you why every map lied, now that you can feel it for yourself. A map maker who wanted to show the sun and the earth at the correct distance on a normal page would have to make the earth so small it would be invisible, smaller than a speck of dust, and the sun would still be barely a dot, and between them would be a stretch of pure white paper with nothing on it at all. No child would buy that poster. No teacher would hang it. It would look like a mistake, like someone forgot to finish the drawing. So instead we cheat. We pull the worlds close and puff them up and string them along a tidy line, and we tell ourselves this is roughly what space looks like. It is not. Space looks like one grapefruit and a scattering of grains across an enormous dark room, and then beyond the room, more dark than you have ever pictured. There is an old habit in the human mind that wants things to be reachable. We see the moon hanging low and golden over the rooftops, and it feels close enough to touch. We see the planets as points of light that move slowly through the constellations, and we file them away as neighbors, as part of our little town in the cosmos. But they are not close. The moon, the nearest thing to us in all of space, is so far that you could fit every other planet in the solar system into the gap between the Earth and the moon, all of them lined up side by side, and there would still be room left over. The nearest thing, and it is already farther than the mind wants to believe. So tonight, as we drift, I am going to keep doing this. I am going to take the comfortable picture and gently set it aside and put the real one in its place. And the real one is always emptier and stranger and quieter than the comfortable one. But here is the secret I want you to carry out into the dark with us. The emptiness is not lonely if you are not crossing it. From here, from your bed, from this warm, small place, the vast distances are simply a beautiful fact, like the depth of the ocean or the age of a mountain. You do not have to swim it. You do not have to climb it. You only have to lie here and let it be enormous around you and feel, somehow, how safe it is to be small and warm in the middle of something so vast and so still. Let me tell you a little about how people first began to feel this. because it might surprise you how slow and gentle that realization was. For most of human history, nobody knew the distances at all. The sky was a ceiling, a painted dome with little lights fixed to it, and the wandering planets were simply brighter lights that drifted along the dome from night to night. People built their whole understanding of the heavens around the idea that everything was close, that the stars and planets hung just overhead, near enough to belong to us. It was a cozy sky. It was a sky you could almost reach up and brush with your fingertips. And it was wrong in the same direction. The poster is wrong. Wrong toward closeness, wrong toward comfort, because the mind reaches for closeness the way a sleeper reaches for a blanket. It took centuries of patient watching to begin pulling the worlds apart. Astronomers measured the slow creep of the planets against the background stars. They timed the way a distant world passed across the face of the Sunday. They worked out, little by little, with nothing but their eyes and their arithmetic and an enormous quiet patience, that the heavens were not a ceiling at all, but a depth, an immense three-dimensional emptiness, with the worlds hung at wildly different distances inside it, and every measurement pushed the planets farther out than anyone wanted them to be. Every careful calculation made the solar system bigger and emptier and lonelier than the one before. The history of astronomy is, in a way, the slow surrender of the cozy, close sky to the vast, open, dark, one reluctant measurement at a time. And here is the thing about that surrender. It never frightened the people who made it. The astronomers who first understood how far away the planets truly were did not run from the knowledge. They sat with it through long, cold nights at their instruments, and what they felt, by their own accounts, was wonder. A deep, steadying wonder, the kind that makes your own troubles go quiet for a while. Because once you truly understand how much room there is out there, the small, frantic worries of an ordinary day begin to loosen their grip. They do not vanish. They simply find their proper size, which is very small, against a backdrop that is very large. So as we rest here at the grain of sand, at the start of everything, I want you to let your own day begin to find its proper size too. Whatever pressed on you today, whatever you carried, whatever is still turning quietly at the back of your mind, let it settle against this vast and gentle scale. The grapefruit sun glows softly across the room. The pinhead and the peppercorn drift in the dark between. And you are here, warm, breathing slow, at home on a grain of sand that holds everything you have ever loved. The distances are enormous, and you do not have to cross a single one of them tonight. There is one more thing I want to give you before we move on, a small fact to hold like a smooth stone in your palm. We tend to think of the planets as a family, gathered together, moving as a group, but they are not. Each one travels its own enormous circle around the sun, at its own slow pace, on its own private schedule, and most of the time they are nowhere near one another. The planets are almost never lined up in a neat row the way the diagrams show. They are scattered around their separate orbits, here one, there another, each alone on its long curved path, each separated from the rest by gulfs that would take years to cross. The solar system is not a huddle. It is a great slow dance performed across distances so wide that the dancers can barely see one another, each one turning alone in the dark, in no hurry, taking years and decades to complete a single graceful step around the fire, and the sun holds them all. That is the quiet miracle underneath the emptiness. Even across these enormous distances, the gentle, invisible pull of the sun reaches out and keeps every world on its path, the near ones and the far ones alike, the grain of sand and the giants we have not yet visited. Nothing has to push them, nothing has to steer them. They simply fall endlessly around the fire, held by a grip so soft and so patient that it feels like rest. The whole solar system is, in a way, asleep in the arms of the sun, drifting in long, slow circles, dreaming its way around and around through the dark. And tonight you get to drift with it. Settle in. We are still at the grain of sand, still at the earth, still in the close and gentle rooms of the inner system. In a moment we will lay the whole inner solar system out on a field you can picture, and we will start to walk the real distances one slow step at a time. But for now, just rest here at home at the start of the journey, with the grapefruit sun glowing softly across the room and 8 minutes of darkness between you and the fire. There is no farther we have to go yet. There is only this, the quiet, the scale, the slow, steady fact of how much room there is out there, waiting, patient, and asking nothing of you at all. Now let us leave the tabletop and walk out onto something wider, because there is an even better way to feel these distances, and it is a way you have stood inside many times without ever thinking about space at all. A field, a long green playing field, the kind with painted lines and goalposts at either end. We are going to lay the inner solar system out across it, and then we are going to walk it, slowly, end to end, and feel the emptiness open between every step. This time, let us make the sun a little bigger, so the picture is easy to hold. Set the sun down at one goal line as a ball you could carry under your arm, a basketball resting on the painted grass. That is our star. Now walk out toward the center of the field, counting your steps, and somewhere around 11 paces from the goal line place Mercury. And here is the part that always catches people. Mercury, at this scale, is not a marble. It is not a golf ball. Mercury is a grain, a tiny speck, barely the size of a pinhead, sitting alone on the grass 11 paces from the basketball. You could walk right past it and never know it was there. You could mow the entire field and never see it. Keep walking, past Mercury, on toward the middle of the field. And at around 20 paces from the sun you set down Venus. A little larger now, perhaps the size of a peppercorn or a small bead, but still almost nothing, still a thing you would have to kneel down and search for in the grass. And between Mercury and Venus, between that pinhead and that bead, there are 9 or 10 paces of pure empty green, 9 or 10 steps of nothing. That is the rhythm of the solar system, the thing the poster could never show. A tiny world, then a long walk through emptiness, then another tiny world. Now keep going to about 28 paces from the sun, and there, in the grass, you place the earth, home again. And the earth, on this field where the sun is a basketball, is the size of a small bead or a peppercorn, 2 millimeters of stone and ocean and air, holding everything that has ever happened to our species. Right beside it, close enough to almost touch in this model, you would place the moon, a fleck the size of a pinhead, sitting about 7 centimeters away from the earth bead, the width of your hand. That gap, that little hand width on the grass, is the farthest any human being has ever traveled from home. Every astronaut, every spacecraft with people aboard, Every voyage in the whole history of our kind has reached no farther than the width of your hand on this enormous field. Sit with that. We will come back to it later, out in the dark, when it will mean even more. Let me give you a gentler ruler now, one that astronomers use, so the distances have a name that is easy to carry. The distance from the Earth to the Sun, that whole 28-pace walk down the field, that 93 million miles of real emptiness, is called one astronomical unit. 1 unit. We are going to measure the rest of the journey in these units. Because miles become meaningless out here, the numbers grow too large and slip through your fingers. So from now on, the Earth sits at 1 unit from the Sunday, one gentle step of our cosmic ruler. Hold on to that. It will help everything that comes after feel simple and smooth. Now we walk past the Earth, and the next world out is Mars. Mars sits at about 1.5 units from the Sun, so on our field it is around 42 paces down from the basketball, a little reddish grain even smaller than the Earth, the size of a peppercorn or less. And the walk from Earth to Mars from 28 paces to 42 paces is 14 long strides across empty grass. 14 steps of nothing between our world and the next one out. That nothing is not a metaphor. It is the actual texture of the space between planets. If you were standing on Mars right now, and you looked back toward the Earth, you would not see a blue marble hanging nearby. You would see a small pale blue dot, a single point of light among the stars, so far away that the fastest radio signal we can send takes many minutes to cross the gap, sometimes more than 20 minutes, when the two worlds are on opposite sides of the Sunday. A simple hello, sent at the speed of light, the fastest speed there is, takes 20 minutes just to reach our nearest planetary neighbor, and then 20 minutes back. A single exchange, there and back, can take the better part of an hour at the speed of light. Let the slowness of that settle over you. We think of Mars as close. We send our robots there. We dream of walking its red deserts. And it is the easy one, the near one, the friendly one. And still it is so far that a conversation across the gap moves at the pace of the tides. Now here is where the field runs out. Here is where even the playing field cannot hold the solar system any longer, and we have only laid out 4 little worlds, because beyond Mars, the next planet is not at 2 units or 3 units. The next major world, Jupiter, sits more than 5 units from the Sunday. On our field, that is past the far goal line, out beyond the fence, across the parking lot. We will make that great leap together soon, slowly, gently, when you are ready. But before we go, I want to spend a little time in the gap itself, in the wide, quiet space that opens up beyond Mars, because there is something out there that the cozy poster told you about all wrong. You have heard of the asteroid belt, and I would guess that when you picture it, you picture danger, a dense, churning field of tumbling rocks, packed so close together that a spacecraft would have to weave and dodge and dart between them, twisting through at the last second to avoid being smashed. That is the picture from 100 films and stories. It is thrilling. It is also, like the poster, almost entirely wrong. Wrong in the same direction, wrong toward crowdedness, wrong toward closeness, because the mind would rather imagine a busy place than an empty one. The truth is this: The asteroid belt is a ring of rubble orbiting the Sun in the wide gap between Mars and Jupiter. And yes, there are a great many asteroids in it, more than we could ever count. Some the size of mountains, a few large enough to be called small worlds in their own right. But the space they float in is so vast, so unimaginably wide, that the asteroids are spread thinner than almost anything you can picture. The average distance between one asteroid and the next is hundreds of thousands of miles. Hundreds of thousands. If you were standing on one asteroid, the nearest other one would, in most cases, be far too distant to see as anything but a faint star, if you could see it at all. Every spacecraft we have ever sent toward the outer planets has flown straight through the asteroid belt. Not one of them has had to dodge. Not one of them has weaved frantically between tumbling rocks. They sail through the belt, and the engineers who fly them do not even hold their breath, because the truth is that the odds of drifting close to any single asteroid by accident are vanishingly small. The belt is not a wall. It is not a barrier. It is the emptiest crowd in existence, a scattering of lonely stones in a volume of space so enormous that they almost never meet. A probe could cross the entire asteroid belt, and the loneliest thing about the journey would be how little there was to see. Let that reframe something in you. The most crowded region of the solar system, the place we imagine as a churning chaos of stone, is in truth so empty that you could spend a lifetime drifting through it and never come within sight of a single rock. That is how much room there is out here. That is how thin the matter is, scattered across the dark. The solar system is not a collection of objects. It is an ocean of emptiness with a few rare objects adrift in it, and the emptiness is the main thing. The emptiness is almost everything. I find a strange comfort in that, and I hope you can find it too as you lie there in the quiet. The places we imagine as dangerous and crowded and fearful turn out, when you look closely, to be calm and open and still. The asteroid belt does not menace the spacecraft that pass through it. It simply lets them by, the way a vast empty hall lets a single footstep echo and fade. There is so much room out there that nothing ever has to collide. Nothing ever has to crowd. Nothing ever has to hurry. Everything that moves through the solar system moves through enormous, gentle distances, alone and unbothered, with nothing close enough to disturb it. It is worth pausing on just how thin the matter really is out there, because it is hard for the mind to accept. We are used to crowded places. A forest is full of trees, each one close enough to touch the next. A city is packed with buildings, a beach with grains of sand, a night sky, so it seems, crammed with stars. Everywhere we look on Earth, the world is full. And so the mind assumes that space must be full too, that the asteroid belt must be a crowd, that the solar system must be busy. But it is the opposite. Space is the emptiest thing there is. If you took all the asteroids in the entire belt, every last one of them, the mountains and the boulders and the pebbles, and you gathered them together into a single ball, that ball would be smaller than our own moon. All of it. Every rock in that whole vast ring, spread across a region hundreds of millions of miles wide, would not even add up to one small moon. That is how thinly it is scattered. That is how much more emptiness there is than matter. And this is the pattern everywhere you look in the solar system. A tiny amount of stuff, the planets and moons and rocks and dust, adrift in an overwhelming amount of nothing. We live on one of the rare full places, one of the rare warm crowded worlds, and so we forget that we are the exception. The rule out there is emptiness. Soft, dark, patient emptiness, stretching between every world, around every rock, filling almost all of the space there is. We are little islands of fullness in an ocean of quiet. Feel how that mirrors the room you are in, the quiet around your bed, the space between you and the wall, between you and the ceiling, between you and the soft sounds of the night outside. You are floating in your own small pocket of emptiness, held softly, with nothing close enough to trouble you. And out there, across the whole inner solar system and into the wide gap beyond Mars, the planets are doing the same thing, each one resting in its own enormous pocket of dark, separated from its neighbors by distances so large they almost cannot be felt, drifting in silence, in no hurry, asking nothing of anyone. Before we leave the inner field behind, let us linger a moment on Mars, because it deserves more than a passing grain in the grass. Mars is the last of the small rocky worlds, the final stepping stone before the great emptiness opens. It is a cold desert planet, smaller than Earth, wrapped in an air so thin you could not breathe a single lungful of it. Its sky is a dusty butterscotch color by day, and its sunsets, strangely, glow a soft pale blue. And here is something to hold as you rest. The sun, seen from the surface of Mars, is noticeably smaller than the sun we know. Not dramatically, not frighteningly, just smaller, a little dimmer, a little cooler, a sun that has begun, ever so slightly, to pull away. Stand on Mars and you would still call it daytime, you would still feel a faint warmth on your face, but some quiet part of you would sense that home was farther now, that the fire had stepped back. And this is only 42 paces down our field. This is the easy distance, the near distance, the one we can almost reach. The sun has already begun to shrink, and we have barely left the goal line. Think about what that tells us about the journey still ahead. If the fire dims even here, so close to home, what becomes of it out where the giants drift? We will find out, slowly, gently. There is no need to hurry toward it. Let me also slow down and sit properly inside that wide gap beyond Mars, because the emptiness there is the real teacher of this whole journey, and I do not want to rush past it. Imagine you are a single grain of dust drifting in that space, somewhere between the orbit of Mars and the orbit of Jupiter, out where the thin scattering of asteroids floats unseen. Look around you. In every direction there is nothing. Not nothing in a frightening way. Nothing in a vast, soft, open way, like standing in the middle of an enormous dark field at night with no fence and no edge in any direction. The sun is a bright point behind you, smaller than you are used to, no longer a warm presence filling the sky, but a brilliant distant lamp. The planets are invisible, each one too small and too far to pick out. There is no sound, because sound needs air, and there is no air. There is no wind, no weather, no day breaking, and no night falling. There is only the slow, silent drift, and the deep stillness, and the patient turning of the whole quiet system around its distant fire. People sometimes think this kind of emptiness would be unbearable, that to float in it would be to feel impossibly small and afraid, but I think it depends entirely on how you meet it. If you fight it, if you strain against the distance and ache to be back among the close, warm things, then yes, the emptiness could swallow you. But if you let it be what it is, if you let yourself simply drift and rest and belong to the quiet, then the emptiness becomes the most peaceful thing imaginable. Nothing pulling at you, nothing demanding, nothing crowding in. Just the soft, endless room of space, holding you gently, the way the dark of your bedroom holds you now, the way sleep itself holds you when you finally let go and sink into it. And notice, as you rest in that gap, how the silence itself becomes the thing worth listening to. On Earth there is always sound, even in the deepest quiet of the night. The faint hum of the world, the soft movement of air, the distant settling of the house, the small sounds of a living planet that never fully sleeps. But out in the gap beyond Mars there is none of that. There is no air to carry sound, and so there is no sound at all. Not the faintest whisper, not the smallest stir. A silence so complete and so deep that nothing in your earthly experience can quite match it. A silence that is not empty so much as it is full, full of stillness, full of peace, full of the soft, patient quiet that fills almost all of space, almost all of the time. That silence is the true voice of the solar system, and it is the gentlest voice there is, asking nothing, demanding nothing, simply holding everything in its vast, soft hush. Let a little of that silence settle into you now, into the spaces between your thoughts, into the slow, quiet rhythm of your breath. Breathe out slowly. We have walked the inner solar system end to end. We have crossed the field from the basketball sun to the little earth bead, past Mars, out into the wide, quiet gap where the thin scattering of asteroids drifts unseen. And now, ahead of us, beyond the far fence, beyond the parking lot, across a stretch of emptiness larger than everything we have crossed so far, the giant worlds are waiting. We will go to them next. Slowly, gently. There is no hurry at all. For now, just rest here, in the gap, in the wide and gentle emptiness beyond Mars, where the loudest sound in all that space is the soft, slow rhythm of your own quiet breathing. So now we come to the leap, the great crossing, the moment where the solar system stops being a thing you can lay out on a field and becomes something else entirely, something that spills past every fence and every boundary the human mind likes to put around its pictures. We left Mars at about 42 paces down the field, 1.5 units from the Sunday, and the next great world, Jupiter, the king of the planets, the largest world in the entire solar system, sits at more than 5 units from the Sunday 5 units. Remember that 1 unit was the whole long walk from the sun to the earth, 28 paces of empty grass. So Jupiter is more than 5 of those walks out, and the gap between Mars and Jupiter alone is wider than the entire distance from the sun to Mars. In one single jump, from the red planet to the giant, we cross more emptiness than everything we have crossed so far combined. On our playing field, where the sun was a basketball at one goal line, Jupiter is not even on the field anymore. It is out past the far goalposts, beyond the fence, somewhere out in the next field over, more than 150 paces from the Sunday. And when you finally reach it, after that long walk through nothing, Jupiter is the first world that is actually big, not a grain, not a bead. Jupiter, at this scale, is the size of a large marble or a small golf ball, a real object you could hold between two fingers, the first planet on the whole journey that you would not lose in the grass. It is so large that all the other planets put together would fit inside it with room to spare. A world you could pour more than 1,000 Earths into, and it sits out there, alone, more than 150 paces from the fire, the largest thing in the solar system after the Sun itself, drifting in an emptiness so wide that from its cloud tops the Sun is just a small bright disk, a lamp turned low. Let me give you light as a clock now, because miles and paces are starting to lose their meaning out here, and light is the truest ruler we have. You remember that the Sun's light takes about 8 minutes to reach the Earth. 8 minutes to cross that first single unit. Well, the light that warms Jupiter's clouds has been traveling for around 43 minutes by the time it arrives. 43 minutes. Think about that. Sunlight leaves the surface of the Sun, races outward at the fastest speed that anything can move. 300,000 kilometers every second, and it travels and travels and travels, and only after more than 40 minutes does it finally reach Jupiter. The same light that touched the Earth in 8 minutes needs 43 to reach the giant. That is how much farther out Jupiter is. That is the size of the leap we just made, and we are not done climbing. Beyond Jupiter, farther still, drifts Saturn, the ringed world, perhaps the most beautiful thing in the entire solar system. Saturn sits at nearly 10 units from the Sun, almost twice as far out as Jupiter. On our field, Saturn would be nearly 300 paces from the basketball out past the next field and the one beyond that. And the sunlight that catches in Saturn's rings, that makes them glow that soft, pale gold, has been traveling for nearly 80 minutes by the time it arrives. An hour and 20 minutes of travel at the speed of light, just to reach the sixth planet. If the Sun were to go dark, Saturn would not know for nearly an hour and a half. I want you to feel what is happening to the Sun as we move outward, because it is one of the gentlest and strangest facts in all of this. The Sun is not getting dimmer because it is fading. The Sun is exactly as bright and as fierce as it always was. But light spreads out as it travels, thinning as it goes, and the farther you drift from the fire, the more thinly that light is spread across the dark. So from the Earth, the Sun is a blazing disk that fills the sky with warmth and color, far too bright to look at. From Jupiter, the Sun is a small, intense point, still the brightest thing in the sky by far, but no longer a great warm presence, more like a brilliant, distant headlight. And from Saturn, the Sun has shrunk further still, a dazzling spark, beautiful and cold, casting pale, thin light across the rings and the cloud tops, a light you could read by but never warm yourself in. And Saturn itself, when you finally reach it across all that emptiness, is a wonder worth resting your tired mind upon. It is the second largest world in the solar system, a great pale golden ball of cloud, so light for its size that if you could find an ocean big enough, Saturn would float upon it. But it is the rings that hold the eye, those vast bright circles sweeping out around the planet, wider than you could ever picture, and yet so thin that if you shrank the whole ring system down to the width of a city, it would be thinner than a sheet of paper. The rings are not solid. They are made of countless pieces of ice and rock, some as small as grains of sugar, some as large as houses, each one a tiny moon in its own right, each one circling Saturn in the cold and the dark, catching the thin, distant sunlight and scattering it back as that soft silver glow. Billions upon billions of frozen fragments, drifting in formation, turning silently around the great pale planet, out there in the deep cold where the sun is just a spark. It is one of the most beautiful things in all of creation, and it floats in a silence so complete and so vast that no living thing has ever heard it. There is a number that captures this, and it is worth holding gently. Out at Saturn, the warmth arriving from the sun is about 1/100th of what we feel on Earth. 1/100th. The same fire, the same star, but spread so thin across the distance that it can barely heat the world it falls upon. Saturn is a place of deep and permanent cold, lit by a sun that has become, for all practical purposes, just a very bright star among the others. And this is still only the 6th planet. We have not reached the truly far worlds yet. We have not reached the outer dark. We are still, in the grand scheme of the solar system, relatively close to home. Let me put the leap to Jupiter one more way, gently, because I want it to land fully before we rest. Everything we walked across in the first part of our journey, the whole inner solar system, the Sun and Mercury and Venus and Earth and Mars, all of it fits inside the first 1.5 units. And then comes the gap. From Mars at 1.5 units to Jupiter at more than 5 units, there stretches a span of nearly 4 units of almost perfect emptiness, wider than the entire inner solar system laid end to end. In that one gap, in that single quiet crossing from the red planet to the giant, there is more room than in everything we had explored up to that point combined. The solar system is not built evenly. It is built with a small, warm, crowded center and then enormous widening gulfs, each one larger than the last, the worlds flung farther and farther apart, the deeper into the dark you go. And we are only at Jupiter and Saturn. The gulfs ahead are wider still. Let yourself drift with that for a while. Picture standing on one of Saturn's many moons, on a frozen surface under a black sky, with the great ringed planet hanging vast and pale above you, and the sun, a single brilliant point so small you could cover it with the tip of your finger. There is no warmth on your face. There is only that beautiful cold light, and the rings arcing silver across the dark, and a silence so deep and so complete that nothing in your experience could prepare you for it. It would be lonely beyond any loneliness we know on Earth, and it would also be, in its way, unspeakably peaceful. The kind of stillness that exists in only the deepest part of the night, when the whole world has gone quiet and you are the only one awake, resting in the dark, held by it. This is the part of the journey where the comfortable picture truly falls apart, and I want to be honest with you about that, gently, because the honesty is part of the wonder. When you were small and you looked at the model of the solar system, Jupiter and Saturn sat just a little farther out than the inner worlds, a comfortable hop beyond Mars. But there is no comfortable hop. The leap from Mars to Jupiter is a chasm. The leap from Jupiter to Saturn doubles the distance again. Each world out here is not a step beyond the last, but a vast new gulf. And the gulfs keep widening the farther you go, the spaces between the worlds growing larger and emptier and quieter with every world you pass. And here is the thing that I find most moving of all. Our fastest spacecraft, the ones we will talk about soon, take years to cross from one of these worlds to the next. Not days, not weeks, years. To go from Jupiter to Saturn, a ship coasting through the emptiness needs years of silent travel, with nothing to do but drift and wait and fall slowly through the dark toward a destination that grows imperceptibly closer, day by day, month by month. The distances out here are not measured in any human scale of patience. They are measured in lifetimes of machines, in slow years of coasting, in signals that take longer and longer to crawl home. But notice, again, that the emptiness does not have to be frightening. From where you are lying, warm and safe and still, the vastness between Jupiter and Saturn is simply a beautiful fact, like the depth of the ocean trenches or the height of the highest mountains. You will never have to cross it. You only get to know that it is there, that the universe is built on this scale, that the worlds drift so far apart and the fire grows so thin and the silence runs so deep. And somehow, knowing it, feeling it, lets a kind of calm settle over the mind. The day you had, the things you carried, the small worries turning at the back of your thoughts, all of them grow quiet against a backdrop this large. They find their proper size. And their proper size, against Jupiter and Saturn and the widening dark, is very small indeed, small enough to set down, small enough to let go of, just for tonight. Let me stay with Jupiter a little longer, because it rewards the slow attention. Jupiter is not a solid world you could ever stand upon. It is a vast ball of cloud and gas and pressure, a planet so large and so deep that as you fell toward its center, the air around you would thicken and thicken until it was no longer air at all, but something stranger, a churning ocean with no surface and no floor. Its great bands of cloud, cream and rust and pale gold stretch all the way around the planet in endless ribbons, driven by winds far faster than any storm on Earth. And in the southern half of the planet there turns a single storm so enormous that the entire Earth could be dropped into it and vanish. A slow red whirlpool that has been spinning for centuries, longer than anyone has been alive to watch it. All of this immense and turning world, drifts out there in the cold and the quiet, more than 40 light minutes from the sun, lit by a fire that has shrunk to a point. And around Jupiter circle dozens of moons, little worlds of their own, some of them with frozen oceans hidden beneath shells of ice, some of them lit by volcanoes, all of them held by Jupiter's enormous gentle grip, the way Jupiter itself is held by the Sunday. It is a whole small system out there, a family of worlds drifting together through the dark, so far from home that a beam of light needs the better part of an hour to find them. If you stood on one of those frozen moons and looked back toward the sun, you would see it as a single dazzling spark, beautiful and small, far too distant to warm you, and you would understand in your body, in a way no diagram could ever teach you, just how far you had come from the warm blue world where you began. I want to give you one more way to feel the leap to the giants, because I think it lands more softly than any number. Imagine you could travel in a car on a perfectly straight road at highway speed, never stopping, never slowing, day and night for years on end. From the Earth, that car would reach the moon in about 5 months. It would reach the sun in something like 170 years. And to reach Jupiter, driving without pause at highway speed, you would need well over 1,000 years. 1,000 years of driving through nothing in a straight line just to reach the fifth planet. Whole civilizations would rise and fall outside the windows of that car before it arrived, and Saturn would take you twice as long again. This is not a distance the body can feel. It is a distance you can only hold in the quiet of the mind, turning it over slowly, letting its sheer size wash through you, like a slow tide pulling out to sea. And yet, here is the gentleness underneath it all. None of this enormity is rushing toward you. None of it is a threat. The giant worlds have drifted in their wide, slow circles for billions of years, calm and patient, never colliding, never hurrying, each one turning quietly in its own vast pocket of dark. The distances that would take 1,000 years to drive are crossed by the planets themselves without any effort at all, because they have all the time in the universe, oceans of time, more time than the mind can hold. There is no impatience out here. There is no struggle. There is only the slow, majestic drift of enormous things through enormous distances, in deep silence, in no hurry whatsoever. And as you lie there, you can let your own breathing fall into that same slow rhythm, that same patient drift, in and out, unhurried, with all the time in the world. So let us rest here a moment, out among the giants, before we go farther. The basketball sun is far behind us now, shrunk to a brilliant point. Jupiter drifts vast and banded in the cold, more than 40 light minutes from the fire. Saturn floats beyond it, ringed and pale, nearly 80 light minutes out, lit by a sun that has become a star. And ahead of us, beyond Saturn, the solar system opens into distances so much greater still that everything we have crossed so far will soon seem close and warm by comparison. We will go there, slowly, gently. There is no hurry. Let the giants drift slowly behind you now, vast and patient in the cold. There is no need to hold on to the numbers, no need to remember the units or the light minutes or the paces down the field. Let all of that grow soft and slip away. Keep only the feeling underneath it, the feeling of enormous gentle distance, of worlds drifting impossibly far apart in a deep and beautiful dark, of a star grown small and quiet behind you, of time slowed down to the patient pace of falling planets. That feeling is the truest thing we have found tonight, and it is a restful thing, a thing that asks nothing of you, a thing you can simply sink into the way you sink into the warmth of your bed. For now, just drift here among the giant worlds, in the thin, cold, beautiful light, where the silence is deeper than any silence on earth, and let it carry you a little further down towards sleep. There is a question that may have been forming quietly in your mind as we have drifted outward, and it is a beautiful one, so let us sit with it gently now. If the distances are this vast, how do we ever cross them? How does anything we build, any machine, any probe, any small brave package of metal and instruments, actually travel from one world to the next? And the answer is the most patient story in all of human endeavor, a story made almost entirely of waiting. Let me tell you about two spacecraft that left the Earth a very long time ago. They are called the Voyagers, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, and they were launched in the year 1977 within a few weeks of each other from a warm green planet toward the outer dark. Think about how long ago that is. People who were born after these spacecraft left the Earth have grown up, grown old, watched their own children grow. And all that time, across all those decades, the Voyagers have been flying, not landed, not returned. Flying, still, outward, every single day, through the emptiness, never stopping, never slowing, carried by the momentum they gathered long ago. When the Voyagers were launched, they were among the fastest objects human beings had ever made, moving at tens of thousands of miles per hour, far faster than any bullet, faster than anything you could picture. And here is what that staggering speed brought them. It took Voyager 2 about 2 years just to reach Jupiter. 2 years of flying at a speed that would carry you around the whole Earth in under an hour, just to cross from our world to the 5th planet. And then another 2 years to reach Saturn, and then 4 more years to reach Uranus, and 3 more years beyond that to reach Neptune. 12 years, all told, from launch to the last giant. 12 years of one of the fastest machines we have ever built, flying without rest, just to cross our own solar system. 12 years to do what the diagrams show as a short row of planets sitting comfortably side by side. This is the thing the cozy picture could never tell you. Speed barely helps out here. You can build the fastest machine in human history, hurl it away from the Earth with all the power we can muster, and the distances are still so enormous that it crawls. It inches across the gaps. The Voyagers were not slow. They were blisteringly, almost unimaginably fast, and against the scale of the solar system, they may as well have been drifting. Let me tell you about another one, a more recent traveler, because its story is even more pointed. There is a spacecraft called New Horizons, and it was built to visit Pluto, the small frozen world far out past Neptune at the edge of the planetary system. New Horizons was launched in the year 2006, and it was the fastest spacecraft ever to leave the Earth at the time, flung away from our planet faster than anything before it, so fast that it crossed the entire distance to the Moon. That journey that took the Apollo astronauts 3 days, in just 9 hours. 9 hours to the Moon. It was that fast. And how long did it take that record-breaking spacecraft, the fastest thing we had ever launched, to reach Pluto? 9.5 years. 9.5 years of flying, of coasting through the dark, of falling outward through the emptiness toward a world it would not reach until nearly a decade had passed. A child could be born when New Horizons launched and be most of the way through grade school before it arrived. And when it finally got there, it did not stop. It could not stop. There was no way to slow down against those distances, so it raced past Pluto in a single day, gathering every image and every measurement it could in those precious hours, and then it kept going, out into the dark beyond, where it still flies today. Sit with the patience in that. 9.5 years for the fastest thing we ever made to reach the edge of the planets. The people who built New Horizons, the scientists and engineers who poured their lives into it, had to wait nearly a decade after launch just to see it arrive. They aged with the mission. They lived their whole lives alongside it, waiting, as it crawled across the emptiness toward its single fleeting encounter. That is what these distances demand of us. Not cleverness, though there is plenty of that. Not speed, though we give them all the speed we can. What the distances demand, above all, is patience. Enormous, quiet, almost superhuman patience. It is worth pausing to feel why speed helps so little out here, because it runs against everything our hurried lives have taught us. On Earth, if a journey is too long, you simply go faster, and the distance shrinks to fit your patience. A faster car, a faster train, a faster plane, and the world grows small and reachable. But space does not bend that way. The distances are so enormous that even doubling a spacecraft's speed, which costs us enormous effort and fuel, only shaves a few years off a journey that already takes a decade. You could build a probe twice as fast as New Horizons, the fastest thing we ever launched, and Pluto would still be years and years away. The distances simply swallow our speed. They are so large that they make even our fastest machines look like they are standing still, like a person walking very slowly across a field that has no far edge, never seeming to get any closer to anything at all. And because we cannot simply power our way across these gaps, we have learned a gentler trick, a kind of cosmic sleight of hand that I think is one of the most beautiful things our species has ever figured out. We let the planets themselves throw our spacecraft outward. As a probe flies past a giant world like Jupiter, it falls toward that world, picks up speed from its enormous gravity, and then swings around it and is flung onward, faster than before, like a stone whirled on a string and released. We call it a gravity assist, a slingshot, and it costs us almost nothing. We simply aim the spacecraft so that it passes close to a planet at just the right angle, and the planet, without ever noticing, hands the probe a little of its own vast motion and sends it on its way. The Voyagers did this. They used Jupiter to reach Saturn faster, and Saturn to reach the worlds beyond. They surfed from giant to giant, borrowing speed at each one, threading a path through the solar system that lined up only once in many decades. But even with all our cleverness, even borrowing speed from the giants, even launching faster than anything before, the journeys still take years. They still take most of a human childhood, or longer, because the distances do not care how clever we are. The distances simply are what they are, vast beyond any machine we can build, and so we have learned to settle in for the long wait, to launch our small brave probes, and then sit back and let the years roll by, trusting them to fall slowly and faithfully across the dark toward their distant destinations. And while they fly, there is the silence. Let me tell you about the silence, because it is one of the most haunting and gentle parts of the whole endeavor. When a spacecraft is out near Jupiter, and we send it a command from Earth, that command travels at the speed of light, the fastest thing there is, and it still takes the better part of an hour to arrive. We say a word to our machine, and we wait, and the word crawls across the emptiness, and finally the machine hears it, and it does the thing we asked, and its reply crawls all the way back, and only then, the better part of an hour later, do we learn what happened. Out at Saturn, the wait stretches longer, more than an hour each way. Out past Neptune, where the Voyagers fly now, a single message takes the better part of a day to reach them, and another full day for their faint reply to return, a day to say hello, a day to hear it answered. We are not having a conversation with these distant travelers. We are exchanging slow letters across an emptiness so wide that light itself grows tired crossing it. Imagine being one of those spacecraft. Imagine flying outward year after year through a darkness with nothing in it. Your home a tiny pale dot somewhere far behind you. Your destination still years ahead. And the only voice you ever hear from home, a faint whisper that takes hours and then days to reach you. There is a loneliness in that which is almost beyond words. And yet the voyagers do not falter. They simply keep flying, faithfully, quietly, doing the small steady work they were built to do, sending their faint signals home across the widening gulf, patient beyond any patience we know. There is something deeply moving in their steadiness, something almost restful. They are not anxious about the distance. They do not strain against it. They simply fall through it, calm and constant, hour after hour, year after year, trusting the long, slow journey carried by momentum gathered lifetimes ago. Let me tell you something else about these patient travelers, something that I find almost unbearably tender. Aboard each of the voyagers, there is a small golden record, a disc carrying sounds and images of the earth, greetings spoken in many languages, the song of a whale, music from across the whole human family, the sound of rain, of a heartbeat, of a kiss. We placed these little golden discs aboard our farthest travelers and sent them out into the dark, not because we expected anyone to find them, but because it felt right to send something of ourselves along with them. A small, warm token of home tucked aboard a machine that would fly forever through the emptiness. And those discs are out there now, drifting through the silence beyond the planets, carrying the quiet sounds of a summer afternoon on Earth farther from home than anything has ever traveled. The heartbeat we recorded decades ago is still out there, still flying, still beating its way across the dark. And think about how slowly, how patiently, those travelers move against the true scale of things. The Voyagers have been flying for more than 4 decades, faster than almost anything we have ever built, and they have only just crossed beyond the edge of the sun's influence, only just begun to taste the space between the stars. If one of them were aimed at the nearest star beyond our own, which it is not, it would take not years, not decades, but tens of thousands of years to arrive. Tens of thousands of years of flying through the dark, at speeds that would carry you across a country in minutes, just to reach the next fire over. That is the gulf between the patience of our machines and the patience the universe asks for. And still, the Voyagers fly, calm and faithful, never hurrying, content to take whatever time the distance requires. There is a lesson hidden in that, a soft one, the kind you can let settle into you as you rest. We live so much of our lives in a hurry. We measure things in minutes and deadlines, in how fast we can get from one place to the next, in how much we can fit into a single day. But the great things, the vast things, the things on the scale of planets and stars, do not hurry at all. They take their time. They cross their enormous distances slowly, steadily, without strain, because they understand, in whatever way a planet or a probe can understand anything, that the only way across a vast distance is one patient moment after another. There is no shortcut. There is no rushing it. There is only the long, slow, faithful drift, and a kind of peace that comes from finally stopping the struggle and letting the journey take exactly as long as it takes. So, as you lie there, let your own hurry begin to fall away. Let the days rushing slow and settle. You have nowhere to be tonight. There is no distance you must cross before morning. Like the voyagers, you can simply drift, patient and unhurried, through the gentle dark, letting each slow breath carry you a little farther toward rest, in no hurry at all, with all the time in the world. And here is the gentlest thought of all, the one I want you to carry with you as you sink deeper towards sleep. Those spacecraft are still out there, right now, tonight, while you lie here in the warm dark. The voyagers are flying through the emptiness beyond the planets at this very moment, farther from home than anything humans have ever sent, still moving, still faithful, still falling outward through the silence. While you breathe slowly and let your body grow heavy, a small machine that left the Earth decades ago is drifting through a darkness so vast and so quiet that a message from home takes a full day to reach it. And it is not afraid. It is simply traveling, patient and steady, through the great gentle emptiness, the way you are about to travel, patient and steady, into the great gentle emptiness of sleep. There is a famous photograph that came from one of these travelers, and it is worth resting your mind upon as you lie there. As Voyager 1 flew outward, far beyond the orbit of Neptune, the engineers turned its camera around one last time to look back the way it had come, back toward home. And in that photograph, taken from billions of miles away, the Earth appears as a single tiny point of light, smaller than a single pixel, a pale blue dot suspended in the vast dark, almost lost in a stray beam of sunlight. Everything that has ever happened to our species, every person who has ever lived, every city and ocean and mountain and war and love story, all of it gathered onto that one faint speck of light, that one pale blue dot, floating alone in an emptiness so enormous that the spacecraft which took the picture had been flying for 13 years to get far enough away to see it that small. That is where we live. That is home. A tiny warm point of blue drifting in the dark, so small from out there that you could hide it behind a raised thumb. And the spacecraft that took that picture is still going, still flying outward, still carrying its small golden record and its faithful instruments deeper into the silence. It will fly for millions of years more, long after everyone alive tonight has gone, long after the cities we know have crumbled, long after the languages we speak have been forgotten. It will simply keep drifting, calm and patient, through the great dark between the stars, a small, quiet messenger from a pale blue dot, traveling distances so vast that even time itself loses its grip on them. There is something in that which is unbearably lonely and unbearably beautiful at once, and the two feelings, the loneliness and the beauty, turn out not to be opposites at all, but the same feeling. Seen from two sides, the way the deepest quiet of the night can feel both vast and tender, both empty and full. So let the patience of these travelers settle over you now. There is no rush. The fastest things we have ever built take years and decades to cross these distances, and they cross them calmly, without strain, without hurry, one slow, steady moment at a time. You do not have to rush anywhere tonight either. You only have to rest and breathe and drift and let the long, slow journey carry you, the way it carries the voyagers, the way it carries the planets, the way it carries everything that moves through the deep and patient dark. And remember, as you drift, that everything these probes have taught us came from that patience, from our willingness to wait. We did not conquer the distances. We did not defeat them or shrink them or rush across them. We simply made our peace with them. We built our small, faithful machines, gave them all the speed we could, and then we let go and waited for years, for decades, trusting the long, slow fall through the dark. And the distances rewarded that patience with everything we know about the outer worlds. There is a gentleness in that bargain that I find deeply restful. The universe does not yield its far places to force or to hurry. It yields them only to patience, only to the willingness to wait in the dark and trust the slow journey. And tonight, you are making the same gentle bargain with sleep. You cannot force it or rush it or hurry it along. You can only let go and wait in the soft dark and trust the slow, quiet fall to carry you where it always carries you in the end. We will go farther out still, past the last of the planets, into the true outer reaches very soon, but slowly, gently. There is, as there has always been out here, all the time in the world. Now we drift out past Saturn, into the part of the solar system that almost no one ever pictures at all, the part beyond the famous worlds, the outer dark. And I want to take this slowly, more slowly than anything so far, because out here the distances stop being merely large and become something the mind can only approach sideways, gently, the way you approach the edge of sleep. Beyond Saturn lies Uranus, a pale blue-green world tipped over on its side, rolling around the sun like a ball rather than spinning like a top. Uranus sits at about 19 units from the Sunday 19. Remember that Saturn was at 10, and Jupiter at 5, and the Earth at 1. The numbers are doubling and doubling, each world flung out roughly twice as far as the last, the gaps yawning wider with every step. From Uranus, the sun is no longer anything you could call warm or large. It is a brilliant star, brighter than any other star in the sky, but a star nonetheless, a point of light you could blot out with the tip of a finger held at arm's length. The light from the sun takes nearly 3 hours to reach Uranus. 3 hours at the fastest speed in the universe, just to arrive at the 7th planet. And beyond Uranus, farther still, drifts Neptune, the last of the great planets, a deep and beautiful blue, the color of the ocean on a clear, cold day. Neptune orbits at about 30 units from the Sunday, 30 times farther than the Earth. Out at Neptune, the sunlight has been traveling for more than 4 hours before it arrives, and when it gets there it is so thin, so faint, that noon on Neptune is dimmer than twilight on Earth. The sun, from Neptune, gives about 1/900th of the light it gives us. The brightest part of Neptune's day is darker than the deepest dusk you have ever stood in, and yet it is still daytime out there. In its way, the sun is still the brightest thing in the sky. It is simply so far away that it has become a kind of cold, bright jewel, beautiful and distant, casting just enough light to see by and not nearly enough to feel. Let me give you a sense of the journey to Neptune in human terms, because the number 30 does not carry its true weight. When Voyager 2 left the Earth, it flew for 12 years to reach Neptune. 12 years of constant flight at tens of thousands of miles per hour, borrowing speed from every giant it passed, and still it took 12 years to arrive. And when it got there, it flew past in a matter of hours, taking its photographs, gathering its precious measurements, and then it was gone, out into the dark beyond, never to return. Everything we know about Neptune up close, every detail, Every image of that deep blue world and its great dark storms comes from those few brief hours after 12 years of travel more than 30 years ago. We have not been back. The distance is simply too great, the journey too long, and so that one fleeting visit remains, even now, almost all we have. And here is the thing I most want you to feel, lying there in the quiet. Neptune is not the edge. Neptune is where the major planets end, but the solar system goes on, far, far beyond it, into regions so distant and so dark that the worlds out there are barely lit at all. Past Neptune lies a vast ring of frozen worlds, countless icy bodies drifting in the deep cold, a region we call the Kuiper Belt. This is where Pluto lives, that small, faithful, frozen world we sent New Horizons to visit. And the Kuiper Belt is enormous, stretching out from Neptune's orbit into distances that make even Neptune seem close to home. The worlds out there are so far from the Sun that they take hundreds of years to complete a single orbit. Hundreds of years for one slow circle around the fire. A creature born on such a world, if its years matched its planets, would live and die many times over before its home completed a single lap around the Sunday. Out here, in the Kuiper Belt and beyond, the Sun has finally become just one star among the many. If you stood on the frozen surface of one of these distant worlds and looked up, you would see the Sun as a single brilliant point, the brightest star in your sky, yes, but no longer anything that could be called a sun in the way we know it. It would give you no warmth. It would barely give you light. It would be a beautiful cold spark in a black sky, crowded with other stars, and you would have to know which one it was. You would have to remember, because nothing about it would announce that it was home. The fire that holds the entire solar system together, the star that warms our skin and grows our food and lights our every day, would be, from out there, almost indistinguishable from the countless other distant fires scattered across the dark. And Pluto, that small, faithful world we did finally reach, turned out to be far more wonderful than anyone expected, which is its own quiet lesson about the far places. For most of a human lifetime, Pluto was nothing but a faint dot, a smudge of light too distant to make out, and people imagined it as a dead grey frozen rock, a dull little stone at the edge of everything. And then New Horizons arrived after its 9.5-year crossing and sent back its photographs, and there, on that tiny world 4 billion miles from the Sun, was a landscape of astonishing beauty. Vast, smooth plains of frozen nitrogen, pale and bright. Mountains of water ice as tall as the Rockies, rising sharp against the black sky. A great pale heart-shaped region that the whole world fell in love with the moment they saw it. A thin blue haze wrapped around the little world, lit by the faraway Sunday. All of it out there in the deep cold, billions of miles from home, more beautiful and more alive with slow, gentle change than anyone had dared to imagine. The far places are not dead. They are only quiet, only patient, only waiting in the dark for someone to drift close enough to see how lovely they truly are. This is the true loneliness of interplanetary space, and I want to speak about it honestly, gently, because there is a kind of beauty in it that only comes when you stop being afraid of it. A spacecraft out here, in the outer dark, is more alone than anything has ever been. It drifts through a region so empty that the nearest object of any size might be many millions of miles away, too far to see, too far to matter. It is surrounded in every direction by distances that no story ever prepared us for, by a darkness so complete and so vast that the human mind has no real handhold on it. There is no up, no down, no near, no far in any sense the body understands. There is only the drifting and the silence and the cold, bright spark of a distant sun, and the slow, patient fall through an emptiness without end. And yet, there is no terror out there, not really, unless we bring it with us. The emptiness does not hate the spacecraft. The darkness does not press in with any malice. The loneliness of the outer solar system is not a cruel loneliness. It is simply the deep quiet of a place where almost nothing is, a stillness so profound and so untroubled that it begins, the longer you sit with it, to feel less like abandonment and more like peace. The deepest peace imaginable. A peace with no noise in it, no hurry, no demand, nothing pulling at you from any direction. Just the soft, endless dark, and the slow drift, and the gentle, cold light of a faraway star. Let me try to give you one more handhold on the size of the outer dark, because numbers like 30 units and 4 light hours slide too easily through the mind. Picture again that car driving at highway speed, never stopping, the one that took over 1,000 years to reach Jupiter. To reach Neptune in that car, you would need to drive for more than 5,000 years. 5,000 years of constant driving, day and night, through nothing, to reach the last of the great planets. The whole of recorded human history, every empire, every story ever written down, every life lived since the first cities rose, would unfold and pass away outside the windows of that car before it arrived at Neptune. And to reach the far edge of the sun's influence, the place the voyagers are only now approaching, that same car would have to drive not for thousands of years but for millions. The mind simply cannot hold it. And that is all right. You do not need to hold it. You only need to let its vastness wash over you, the way you let the sound of distant waves wash over you, asking nothing, simply vast and gentle and there. And consider how dark it truly is out there, how deep the cold runs. On the frozen worlds of the outer solar system, temperatures fall to hundreds of degrees below anything you have ever felt. Cold so deep that the gases we breathe would freeze solid and fall as snow. Cold so deep that ice becomes as hard as stone, hard enough to form mountains and cliffs and frozen plains that have not changed in billions of years. These are worlds where nothing moves quickly, where nothing is in a hurry, where a single day can last longer than a human lifetime, and a single year can last longer than a civilization. Time itself seems to slow out there, to stretch and deepen, to become as vast and patient as the distances. Everything in the outer dark is slow and cold and still and old beyond imagining, drifting through the silence with a patience that makes our hurried little lives seem like the brief flicker of a spark. And still, even in all that cold and dark and distance, there is a quiet kind of activity, a gentle, slow life to the place. Comets drift inward from the far shell, falling toward the sun over thousands of years, and as they near the warmth they begin to glow and stream and grow their long, bright tails, and then they swing around the fire and fall slowly back out again into the dark, on journeys that last longer than all of human history. Distant icy worlds turn slowly in the starlight. The faint, thin wind of the sun pushes gently outward against the wind of the other stars. It is not a dead place. It is a slow place, a patient place, a place where everything happens on a timescale so vast that to us it would look like perfect stillness, but where, given enough time, given the deep patience of the cosmos, things do move, things do change, things do drift and fall and circle in their own unhurried way. I think there is something in us that recognizes that peace, even though we have never been there. Some quiet part of the mind that longs, now and then, for exactly that kind of stillness, that kind of distance from everything, that kind of soft, dark room with no edges and nothing asking anything of us. When you lie awake at night and the whole world has gone silent, and there is no sound but your own slow breathing, you are tasting a small version of that outer quiet. The hush of the deep night is a little echo of the hush between the worlds. And just as the spacecraft drifts unafraid through the outer dark, faithful and calm and patient, you too can let yourself drift here, now, through the soft dark of your own quiet room, unafraid, held gently by the silence, falling slowly towards sleep. Let us go a little farther out, to the very edge, before we turn for home. Past the Kuiper Belt, far past Pluto, far past anything we have ever sent a spacecraft to visit, the sun's gentle influence finally fades into the influence of the other stars. The voyagers, after more than 40 years of flight, have only just reached the beginning of this boundary, the place where the sun's wind gives way to the wind between the stars. And surrounding all of it, wrapping the entire solar system in a vast and ghostly shell, astronomers believe there lies an enormous cloud of icy worlds, a sphere of frozen bodies so distant and so far flung that it reaches perhaps a quarter of the way to the nearest star. A spacecraft flying outward through that shell would take not years, not decades, but tens of thousands of years to cross it. Tens of thousands of years just to leave the outermost reaches of our own sun's family. That is how deep the solar system truly is. That is how far the gentle grip of our star extends into the dark. And all of it, every frozen world, every drifting comet, every distant icy fragment in that vast far shell, is held still by the Sunday, even out there, even at distances that take light more than a year to cross. The soft, patient pull of our star still reaches, still holds, still keeps these far cold travelers turning slowly in their enormous orbits. It is the same pull that holds the earth, the same pull that holds you to the surface of your world, the same gentle, invisible grip that keeps you from drifting off into the dark. The sun holds the whole of it, the near and the unimaginably far, the warm and the frozen, in one vast and patient embrace that stretches a quarter of the way to the stars. And think, as you drift, of how the night sky you know is really a window onto all of this. When you stand outside on a clear dark night and look up at the stars, you are looking out through the thin air of your own small world into exactly this kind of vast and gentle emptiness. Every point of light up there is a sun of its own, unimaginably far away, separated from us and from each other by distances so enormous that the whole width of our solar system, everything we have crossed tonight, would be far too small to see from even the nearest of them. The stars are not close together. They only look that way scattered across the dome of night, because they are so far that the eye cannot tell near from far. They are drifting, each one alone, through an emptiness even vaster than the one between our planets, an emptiness so deep that the light reaching your eyes from some of them left its star before you were born, before your grandparents were born, before the first cities rose. You are looking, every clear night, at light that has been traveling through the dark for years and centuries and thousands of years, falling at last, gently, into your upturned eyes. There is a strange comfort in that, the same comfort that has run beneath this whole journey. The universe is mostly empty, mostly quiet, mostly soft, dark distance, with rare, warm, precious things adrift in it. And we are one of those rare, warm things. Our whole solar system, all of it, the sun and the planets and the moons and the far frozen worlds, is one small, warm gathering of light in the vast, quiet dark, drifting together through the galaxy, holding together by that same gentle, patient pull, keeping one another company across the emptiness. We are not lost out here, we are held. We belong to a small, warm family of worlds, turning together in the dark, and you belong to the warmest world of all, the one full, bright blue world where life took hold and where, tonight, you lie safe and breathing in the quiet. So rest here a moment, at the very edge of everything, in the deepest and quietest part of the dark. The sun is a single spark behind us now, one star among many. The frozen worlds drift in their slow centuries-long orbits. The voyagers fall outward through the silence, faithful and calm, and all of it is held, gently, by the same soft pull that holds you to your bed tonight. There is nothing to fear out here. There is only the vast and gentle quiet, the deepest stillness there is. And in a moment we will turn and begin the long, slow drift back home, back across all that emptiness, toward the small, warm world where you are lying, safe and held, falling slowly and softly toward sleep. And now, slowly, gently, we turn for home. We have drifted all the way out to the cold far edge of the sun's vast family, to the frozen shell that wraps a quarter of the way to the stars. And now we begin the long, soft fall back inward, back across all that emptiness, back toward the small, warm point of blue where you are lying right now in the quiet dark. Let us drift back the way we came and feel how the journey changes when you are heading home. We fall inward from the far cold shell, past the slow frozen worlds of the outer dark, and after a very long and patient drift, the sun begins, ever so slightly, to grow. It is still just a spark, still just the brightest of the stars, but now it is our spark, the one we are falling toward, and there is something in the falling that feels like relief. We pass the deep blue curve of Neptune, drifting alone in its faint 4-hour light. We pass tilted Uranus, rolling quietly on its side. We cross the wide, cold distances back toward the ringed glory of Saturn, pale and golden, its billions of icy fragments turning silently in the dark. And the sun grows, slowly, patiently, a little warmer, a little brighter, with every passing stretch of emptiness we cross. We fall on, past the great banded face of Jupiter and its family of moons, past the thin, scattered stones of the asteroid belt that part without a sound to let us by, and the sun grows larger still, until at last it is no longer a star, but a disk again, a small bright disk with a hint of warmth in it, and we know that we are nearly home. We cross the orbit of Mars, that little red world where the sun first began to pull away from us all those distances ago, and now we feel it pulling us back, drawing us in, and the warmth on our skin grows real again, gentle and familiar, the warmth of the fire we set out from so long ago. And then, ahead of us, small and blue and impossibly precious, the Earth, home. The pale blue dot, growing now from a speck to a marble to a great blue and white world turning slowly in the light of its star. All that emptiness behind us, all those vast cold distances, all that patient dark, and here at the end of the falling is this one small warm world, wrapped in its thin blue air, holding its oceans and its forests and its cities and its sleeping people, holding you in your bed, in your quiet room, in this very moment. Let us slow down here on the way in and rest for a while at the moon, because the moon has been waiting faithfully through this whole long journey, and it deserves a gentle moment of its own. The moon is the nearest thing to us in all of space, our one close companion, the pale silver light that has watched over every night since before there were people to look up at it. And even the moon, our nearest neighbor, is farther away than the mind likes to believe. You could fit all the other planets of the solar system into the gap between the Earth and the moon, lined up side by side, and there would still be room to spare. The moon is not the close little lamp it appears to be when it hangs low and golden over the rooftops. It is a whole world, a quarter the width of the Earth, drifting 250,000 miles away through the dark. And it took the astronauts who visited it 3 full days of travel to cross that gap, the farthest any human being has ever gone from home. And yet, against everything else we crossed tonight, the moon is practically in our arms. That 3-day journey, the longest voyage in human history, the farthest our kind has ever traveled, would not even reach the first grain in the grass on our enormous field. We have never been farther than the width of a hand from home. Everything else, every other world, every distance we drifted across tonight, we have only ever visited with our small, brave machines, our patient probes falling through the dark for years on end. We ourselves have stayed close, here, in the warm shallows near our world, never more than a few days from home. There is something tender in that, something that makes this small blue world feel even more precious, even more like the one safe shore in an endless sea. So let the moon drift past us now, silver and faithful, as we fall the last little way inward toward home, and feel how close home truly is, how near, how warm after all that cold and distance. The whole vast solar system stretches out behind us, the giants and the frozen worlds and the far cold shell, all of it enormous and empty and patient. And here, at the end of the long fall inward, is the one warm world, turning slowly in the gentle light, holding you safe in the dark. I want you to feel now something that the whole long journey has been quietly building toward. All those enormous distances we crossed, all that emptiness between the worlds, all that cold and silence and dark, it is not something to fear. It is something that protects you. Think about it. Out there, between the planets, there is nothing. No air to breathe, no warmth, no ground to stand on, no shelter from the cold or the dark. And here, On this one small world, there is everything. Air to fill your lungs, soft and free, breath after breath, without your ever having to think about it. Warmth from a star that sits at exactly the right distance, close enough to heat you, far enough not to burn you. Ground beneath you, solid and faithful, holding you gently to the surface of your world so you never drift away into the dark. A thin blue blanket of air wrapped all the way around the planet, keeping the cold of space out and the warmth of life in. The vast emptiness we cross tonight is the very thing that makes this small, warm world so precious. Home is not small and ordinary. Home is rare. Home is the one full, warm, bright place in an ocean of empty dark that stretches farther than the mind can hold. And you are here, on it, in it, held safe by it, in the warmest and most sheltered corner of it, in your own bed, in your own quiet room, under your own soft covers, with the whole vast protective emptiness of space arranged around you like the layers of a blanket, keeping you safe, keeping you held, keeping you home. Think of everything that had to be just so for this small, warm world to hold you. The Earth sits at exactly the right distance from the sun, in a narrow band where water can stay liquid, where it is neither so close that the oceans boil away, nor so far that they freeze solid forever. A little nearer the fire, and we would be a scorched world like Venus, wrapped in killing heat. A little farther out, and we would be a frozen desert like Mars, with the sun already pulling away. But here, at this one gentle distance, in this one narrow warm band, everything balanced, and oceans gathered, and life took hold, and grew, and spread, until at last, after billions of years of patient turning, there was you, lying in a soft bed on a quiet night, warm and breathing and safe. All of that vast, careful distance, all of that enormous emptiness arranged around us, and we landed in the one warm, sheltered spot where a creature could rest easy in the dark. And the air, think of the thin, soft blanket of air wrapped all the way around the world, the air you are breathing right now without a single thought, the air that the whole rest of the solar system, all those vast cold worlds, simply does not have. Out there, every world is either airless and bare or wrapped in poison too thick to breathe. Only here, on this one small place, is there air that a living thing can pull into its chest, gently, freely, breath after breath after breath, all night long, without ever having to think about it. The very breath moving in and out of you now is a gift the empty dark could never give. So let each breath feel like the small, warm miracle it is, slow and easy and free, drawing in the soft air of the one world that could ever hold you. Feel the bed beneath you now. Feel how solid it is, how faithful, how it holds you exactly the way the earth holds the moon, exactly the way the sun holds the earth, with a soft and patient grip that asks nothing of you and never lets go. Feel the air moving gently in and out of your chest, that free and effortless breath that the empty dark could never give you, the breath of a living thing on a living world. Feel the warmth wrapped around you, the small pocket of heat your body has made beneath the covers, a tiny echo of the great warm star that holds the whole solar system in its gentle arms. You are so small against the scale of everything we crossed tonight, smaller than a grain of sand on the field, smaller than the pale blue dot in the photograph. And yet here you are, warm and safe and breathing, held by your bed, held by your world, held by the soft pull of a star 93 million miles away, held by the vast and gentle architecture of a solar system that has kept its worlds turning in safety for billions of years. The same patience that carries the voyagers through the dark is carrying you now softly towards sleep. The same stillness that fills the space between the planets is settling over your quiet room. The same slow, gentle drift that moves the worlds around their distant fire is moving in your slow and easy breath, in and out, unhurried, with all the time in the world. Let the day you had grow small now, the way the earth grew small in the photograph. All the things that pressed on you, all the worries and the hurry and the noise, let them shrink down against the vast and gentle scale of everything we have seen, until they are no larger than a faint speck of light in a great soft dark, until they are small enough to set down, small enough to let go of, small enough to drift away from as you fall, slowly and softly, towards sleep. There is nowhere you need to be tonight. There is no distance you must cross before morning. There is only this, the warm bed, the slow breath, the quiet dark, and the whole vast, gentle solar system turning slowly around you, keeping you safe, keeping you home. The voyagers are still flying, far out in the silence, carrying their golden records and their faint heartbeat of home through the endless dark. The planets are still drifting, each one alone in its enormous pocket of quiet, falling forever around the fire. The frozen worlds at the edge are still turning slowly in the starlight, patient beyond all patience. And here, in the warmest corner of it all, on the one small blue world where the air is soft, and the ground is faithful, and the star sits at exactly the right distance, you are drifting too, gently, softly, your breath growing slow and deep, your body growing heavy and warm, the quiet settling over you like the deep hush between the stars. Let yourself feel, one last time, how the whole enormous journey has folded down into this one small, quiet moment. We crossed billions of miles tonight. We drifted past the scorched inner worlds and the great banded giants and the ringed pale beauty of Saturn, out through the deep cold to Neptune and Pluto and the frozen shell at the edge, all the way to where the sun is just a spark and the voyagers fall through the endless dark. And all of it, every distance, every world, every stretch of emptiness, has carried us gently back to here, to this bed, to this breath, to this warm, safe, small place where you are lying now. The vastness was never something to cross. It was something to rest inside of. The way you rest inside the quiet of your room, the way you rest inside the slow, soft rhythm of your own breathing. So there is nothing more to reach for, nowhere more to go. The whole solar system is laid out around you in the dark, enormous and gentle and still, and you are held in the warmest corner of it, and that is enough. That is everything. Let the last of your thoughts about distance and scale and emptiness grow soft and quiet now, and let them drift away into the dark, like small spacecraft falling silently outward, smaller and smaller, fainter and fainter, until they are gone, and there is only the warm bed and the slow breath and the deep, gentle quiet. Let your eyes stay closed. Let your thoughts grow slow and far apart, the way the worlds grow far apart out in the dark, each one drifting quietly into the distance until the spaces between them are wide and soft and still. There is no hurry. There is so much room. There is all the gentle emptiness in the world to drift through now, all the soft, dark distance, all the patient quiet, and you can let yourself fall into it the way the spacecraft fall through space, calm and unafraid, carried by a gentle pull you do not have to understand, toward a rest that is deep and warm and waiting. Let me leave you with one last gentle picture, something to carry down with you into the deep. Imagine, for a moment, that you could see the whole solar system at once, from far enough away that all of it fit softly into view. The sun, a small, warm point of gold. The planets, tiny specks drifting in their wide, slow circles, each one alone in its enormous pocket of dark, each one held by that gentle golden pull. The asteroid belt, a faint, thin scattering. The far frozen worlds, barely lit, turning slowly in the deep cold. The voyagers, smaller than dust, falling outward through the silence at the very edge. All of it, the whole vast quiet machine, turning slowly and faithfully in the dark, exactly as it has for billions of years, exactly as it will for billions more, calm and patient and unhurried, asking nothing, simply being what it is, enormous and gentle and still. And somewhere in that soft turning picture, on the third small speck out from the warm golden point, in a quiet room on the night side of a turning world, there is you, small beyond measure, safe beyond worry, held by everything, breathing slow, drifting, at last, toward sleep, while the great, gentle solar system turns quietly all around you, keeping you, holding you, carrying you softly through the dark. There is nothing left to do now but rest. The journey is over. We have crossed all the emptiness there was to cross, drifted out to the farthest cold edge and fallen all the way home again, and now there is only this warm bed, this quiet room, this slow, soft breath, and the deep, gentle dark settling over you like the hush between the stars. Let your body grow heavy. Let your thoughts grow slow and far apart. Let the warmth wrap around you and the quiet hold you, and the slow tide of your breathing carry you down gently, softly into the deep. Sleep now. The solar system will keep turning while you do, slowly, faithfully, in the vast and gentle dark. The sun will keep its long, soft hold on every world, the near and the unimaginably far. And you will rest here in the warmest, safest, most sheltered corner of it all, a small, warm light on a small blue world, held by everything, asking nothing, drifting softly, at last, into sleep. Good night. Rest well. The distances will keep, and the worlds will wait, and the quiet will hold you, all through the long and gentle night.